Welcome to the Football Pyramid Talk podcast. Available to listen to on YouTube and Spotify. George, Simon and Sterling as your hosts. 7 different leagues. Enjoy the episode.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Football Pyramid Talk podcast, episode 34 today. Had to double check which one it was, but we're getting to the crucial end of the season now. Carabao Cup final, more Premier League action, Championship action. So we'll get straight into it, shall we? Big one, as I said, Carabao Cup final. Man City again. Pep Guardiola, 5-time Carabao Cup winner. They've been serial winners in this, really, haven't they, for the last decade or so. And to be honest, I thought it wasn't the best game. I don't know about you guys, but it was a 5-minute spell and a Nico O'Reilly double that did it. What did you both think of the game?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good performance from Man City, especially in the second half. I mean, it looked like Arsenal sort of just looked to park the bus in that second half. You know, they didn't really look to create a lot, and Man City punished them for that, really. I think what impressed me the most with Pep Guardiola was that he looked to sort of stop Arsenal from playing the way they want to play, from going with this 4 up top, sort of out of possession, where you see Kepa, Gabriel, Saliba on the ball, and they're taking about 10, 15 touches because they're like, well, they're stopping us from doing what we usually want to do. And they'll just have to revert to going long, which I thought sort of stumped Arsenal from doing what they usually want to do. And factors of that could be, you know, they didn't have Eze, they didn't have Timber, they didn't have Odegaard, but, you know, the quality that you have on the pitch already is, I think, enough to go on and win that game. And they've been quality enough for this season to go and do that. I mean, in terms of City, I thought Nico O'Reilly, obviously getting the brace, but his general play in the game was absolutely brilliant. The runs he made for both goals, just coming from that left-back position, drifting into the box and getting in the end of the crosses. Really impressive stuff. And I thought City were dominant, especially in the second half. Arsenal didn't really have a sniff apart from Calafiori putting one just wide, and I thought that was about it. But I thought Man City were worthy winners in that game, and I think they just had, well, you can say more experience, but they just looked like they were way more up for it in that second half, don't you think, Simon?
It was a dreadful game, really, but I was listening to it on the radio for the most part. They had some sort of astonishing stat on there that was, if you count up the number of trophies the Arsenal squad's won, it's about 45. If you count up the number of trophies the City squad's won, it's about 145. So I think they made their experience count in the final, frankly. I thought Arsenal bottled it to a greater extent, especially in the second half. They sort of came out, they were too passive. City had much clearer identity. They knew what they wanted to do with that second period of the game. They took the game by the ruff of the neck and did what they wanted with it, really. Nico O'Reilly, 2 great goals, but just goes to show you, we'll talk about it later on as well, but if you've got someone in goal that's a bit dodge, it affects everything. And I think that's what's led to Arsenal's downfall, really, with their keeper fumbling in the first effort. That's for sure.
Yeah. Those have been the 2 critiques that I've mainly seen about Arsenal. The first one, more so than just this game, but them in big games, they kind of go into their shell, don't they? Which seems to have that sort of protagonist, or is that the right word, Dad? Like Chris Hughton used to be at the Albion, sort of nature that he's got Arsenal playing very conservative, not wanting to lose. Has done them well in the Prem, but in games like this, in big games, that's been a critique for them, where they've not actually played the best football and really gone for it, and it's, you know, meant that they don't get the result they want, like in this game. And then obviously starting Kepa, I think fair enough from a managerial point of view that you're going to stick with him. He's the one that got you there. Made saves in the quarter-final, I think, against Crystal Palace in penalty shootout, and he's been the cup goalkeeper in Carabao Cup and I think FA Cup as well. So I think personally, fair enough with that, but I know that's split opinions. And based on what you said, Dad, you'd have put Raya in.
Yeah, if you want to win the trophy, there's no sentimentality in football. I can't understand why he didn't put Raya in goal. He's a better goalkeeper. Kepa's proven himself to be quite an able deputy, but this is, you're winning a trophy at the end of the day, and I think he should have put him in goal. I wanted to talk about Spurs and Forest because we talk about goalkeepers that don't inspire confidence. We were sat in there watching that game on Sunday and scratching our heads, trying to understand what made that Spurs team so poor. And I think it is a cultural thing for the main part. I think, they had all this great big palaver before the game with flags and smoke bombs outside the ground and welcoming the coach. And then there was a video from the captain on there before the game talking about we're all in this together and we've got to fight for each other and blah, blah, blah. As soon as the first goal goes in, Romero's turning around having a go at he was having a go at Jed Spence. He was just lambasting him. And then
it was his fault for the goal, to be fair, but it's not how a
that's
captain
not what a captain does, especially when he said we're all in this together. He walked back to the centre circle and he was having a go at someone else. And we watched the highlights last night, and every single goal that Forest scored, he was standing watching what was going on, either watching what someone was doing or watching someone run past him. And I think it is a cultural thing at Spurs, and I think it stems from the leadership down. And it's not just on the pitch, it's not just Romero. If they got any sense, they'll replace Tudor,
Yeah.
I think, it's tragic what's happened to him. But you can't, as I said before, you can't let sentimentality intrude. They're going to go down.
Yeah, it's looking like it, isn't it?
The Forest fans are singing about playing Stevenage next year, which is what Tottenham got on the horizon if they don't sort themselves out.
Yeah, I mean, it is boggling with Spurs because you look at the squad. I think you said it. Don't want to keep banging the same door down, but it's hard to see where it's going wrong because the squad's more than good enough. The fans got right behind them yesterday. So you can't even say, the fans aren't with them. They got right behind them. And I completely agree. I think the Spurs fans thought that the grass would be greener when Daniel Levy went. But it's clearly a lot more than just that needs sorting out. There's talks I heard on the radio today that Roberto De Zerbi's thinking about going there. I think he'd be good manager to go there and give a rollicking to a lot of people in that club and really turn it around because he sets standards, doesn't he? We've seen that at the Albion. He sets standards, very demanding. But the defending was woeful from Spurs, and I think on the pitch that's probably their biggest downfall. Because I mean, all the goals were pretty poor. Third goal was a really nice ball from Nico Williams, to be fair, but that second goal, Morgan Gibbs White's just stood there. He's literally just stood there. I mean, I'd be fuming if one of my teams conceded that goal. I don't know what you think, George, but that was my take from it, really, on the pitch.
Oh no, 100%. I mean, I watched the game. One of the things for me was Spurs had, I think, eight or nine corners in that first half. Created absolutely nothing from every single one of them corners. Nothing. Forest had two. The first one they nearly scored from, and the second one they did score from. They weren't. They had the set pieces, and they weren't, making anything from them. When you have eight in one half of football, you should expect to at least make a big chance or probably score from one of them. But you're right in saying the defence was, woeful because, Forest didn't score great goals. I agree with you. That third one was good. Good goal from Awonyu, but that crossing from Nico Williams was something else, wasn't it? But this Spurs team will go down at this minute in time. The way they are playing, if something doesn't change, they will be a championship side. Because when you watch them, Wolves, I think, look better than them at the minute. I think West Ham look way better. Forest, obviously, evidently a lot better. It's looking like them and them only, really, to be honest. I mean, if they don't make a change, obviously, very sad to see Igor Tudor have to rush off because of the loss of his father, which we do wish him well. And obviously, that's a horrible situation to have, isn't it? Straight after your side's losing 3-0, you have to go down the tunnel and hear such sad news like that. And I have heard things about him having to leave in the next 24, 48 hours and then reverting to Roberto De Zerbi because they wanted De Zerbi in the summer, but they're thinking they're going to have to, resort to him even quicker. That it's such a bleak situation at the minute that they're going to have to get the Albion legend into the side, which I think's the right call.
Not sure that he'll go there for 7 games, to be honest, and try to keep him up. I think I can see it happening if they stay up, but definitely not if they go down.
That was the thing. Yeah, that was the
Can't
thing.
see him going there for 7 games, personally.
Yeah, I can't see that either. But I think it was on Talksport or something. He's linked to go there if they do stay up in the summer. But apparently, rumours are saying, which I don't think will happen either. I agree with you in that factor that he might go there if Tudor gets sacked. But I think that's too little too late, personally. I think De Zerbi's that much of a tactical, he's so specific about how he wants to play, and it's quite, into depth. One of the examples I remember off the top of my head was like Belaber and Barco. You'd wait about 3-4 months to get them into the side because of how into depth and how much a position in Roberto De Zerbi's tactics inside requires, and it takes quite a while. So I don't know if you can get it ticking straight away. I don't know what you think about that, but
yeah, they were all saying that at the Albion, which leads us on nicely to the game that we were at on the weekend. Very, very good result for the Albion. Unreal atmosphere. Down at the Amex, I thought it's just a really good game. I know Arnie Slot said that it was just refreshing to see 2 teams going at each other for once, which I think is a slight dig because didn't you say that he's been saying that he doesn't bother watching the Premier League, Arnie Slot, he just watches Eredivisie. So I think a slight dig at the wider landscape of the Premier League. But it was a really good game actually. Danny Welbeck again proving that he should be on the plane. What did you make of it, Dad? Obviously got a soft spot for both teams there, you.
Yeah, I thought Liverpool were as poor as Brighton were brilliant, really. And I said to you two, you couldn't really pick a man in the match for Brighton out of that. It was a hard job because they all played really well. If I had to come down to one player, I think it would be Fergie Kagnogi. I thought he was outstanding. I think he's probably pound for pound Brighton's best player, frankly. I think he's definitely an unsung hero in that squad, and I'd like it to stay that way as well because I don't want him to see him go because I think he's that good a player. Liverpool were poor. I mean, I've been listening to the Anfield Wrap on the way into work today, and they were talking about really that they didn't really expect much more from Liverpool. It was summed up their season, that game, they felt. You got Mamardashvili, who's patently a left-footed player, who's not that good with his feet anyway, and he's got the centre arse passing the ball to him to his right foot. I mean, it's fundamentals like that. But it was interesting because they talked about last week about some of the style changes because they got a guy there that does a little bit of coaching at quite a high level, I think, and he was talking about how Jurgen Klopp's team would always have players that he would demand that when the ball's played to them, they were getting the ball on the half turn and didn't really care if that meant that they lost the ball. And that led to sort of chaotic football that you sometimes saw with Liverpool games where Slot has cancelled that out of the entire team. He doesn't want anybody getting the ball on the half turn because it means losing possession. He wants to be much more methodical. and they just got outplayed on Saturday. They were poor.
Yeah.
But Brighton were excellent.
Yeah, it was tale of a little bit of both of those factors, wasn't it? And that actually links into what I was going to say, because I think Liverpool at the back were really, really poor. Canate especially, and Frimpong was getting killed by Minte. But goes into what you're saying about getting it on the half turn is that I thought Verts and players that big money name players. I know Ekitike went off, Gakpo, as another one, but Verts in particular. 150 million. He was anonymous. You wouldn't have even known he was on the pitch, and that's who you want to be. That's how I'd want him to play. Get him on the half time, finding him in the pockets. But there was none of that. Yeah, I did think Brighton were brilliant though. What did you think, George? You were loving it, mate, when I come over at full time.
Yeah, because I saw hers are actually giving it a bit of passion, which I absolutely
Yeah,
love.
it was
That's what
good,
the
wasn't it?
Brighton fans want. When I saw him doing that, I literally got on my seat and I was absolutely going for it, because that's the sort of passion that I love, and that we're sort of used to. With Potter used to do it, De Zerbi used to do it, Houghton used to love it, but he'd always, well, at the minute he's loving it a lot more. But before, he just walked down the tunnel, wouldn't he? Like Unai Emery does at Villa Park
Yeah,
and at other grounds. But I mean, Mamadashvili, I thought he was a good shot stopper, really good saves a couple of times. But I think the Liverpool centre arse, as you said, Kanate especially. I mean, I think he was the sole reason. I mean, it was a mix of both, but I think Kanate mostly, his touch for that pass that Mamadashvili gave to Kanate,
yeah,
where he just completely miscontrolled it. Then Brighton threw the ball in. Ferdy had about 4 or 5 touches before whipping the ball in, and then Liverpool players get beat at the front and back post. So that, I think that goal, especially the first one, was a prime example of Liverpool defending really poorly in the game. But I think about Danny Welbeck not getting called up. I mean, I think it's an absolute joke, to be honest. How can you be? How can you be the English top goal scorer in the Premier League and not get a call up over Solanke? He's got 3 goals. And
yeah. It is
when
crazy.
I watched him against Forest, I didn't even know he was playing. I
No.
don't get it, to be honest. 35-man squad, and you're not bringing probably one of the most informed strikers in the league. Doesn't make sense to
Yeah,
me, to be honest.
we we said that as well. I mean, Dad, that you can understand Calvert-Lewin because I think he brings
Yeah,
something maybe different altogether than
yeah.
Welbeck and Kane. But Solanke just doesn't make any sense, and I think Welbeck himself actually brings something that neither of them bring. I don't know what you think, Dad, but I think Calvert-Lewin's really, really good in the air. He's got that enormous leap. Kane can do it all, and whoever it's going to be, the two others are going to be understudies. But Welbeck offers something a little bit different, doesn't he?
You're going to be picking a player to be in that squad that's not going to play that much because Kane's going to be playing most of the minutes. So you've got to think about what else are they going to bring to that squad. And Welbeck will just change the culture of that squad because,
Yeah,
he's widely perceived with players like Milner and Gross and Dunk to be the bedrock of the culture in that Brighton squad, which is demanding high standards from everybody all the time. And I think that's what Welbeck would bring. And we
Hmm.
were puzzling at the weekend, why has he not got picked? And we thought maybe Solanke's been picked because Welbeck needs his minutes managed, but Solanke's missed more games this season than he started.
yeah,
Yeah.
Although he's bagged a couple of goals, I think, hasn't he? He's not anywhere near as consistent as Welbeck, and he's definitely making a mistake not taking Welbeck, I think, because he will change the culture of that squad in a way that can only be positive. But I think we'll probably talk about that a little bit next week, won't we?
yeah. We will because it'll be international break. But I think the way that I see it now is that he's not going to go because he wasn't put in that 35-man squad, and even Eze and Jarrell Quansah dropped out, and he didn't
Yeah.
bring Welbeck in. So there's another option there. If he was close, then he would have surely been put in that. I think if one of the strikers had to drop out, maybe. But anyway, we'll move on to Championship. Very big game in the league was Ipswich versus Millwall. watch the highlights. First half, Ipswich could have had a couple, and probably they would have. Definitely they're the better team from the first half, and they're thinking, "Oh, we're going to win this." Went 1-0 up. Millwall low, complete tale of two halves. They were the much better team, and really, they got back on level terms fairly early, and really should have gone on to win it in the end.
Yeah.
What's his name? Walton in goal for Ipswich made a cracking save, and then they smashed the bar last minute, pretty much Millwall. So that would have been huge for them because they're both level on points with each other. But Ipswich have a game in hand, so that really would have been massive for Millwall. Both 2 points off automatic or automatic promotion. So yeah, I don't know who would really be the happier of the two. Maybe Ipswich, based on how it ended, but Millwall going away to Ipswich probably would have taken a point. You know, we always used to say, didn't we? There's no bad point in the Championship. We say that in the Prem as well. But don't know what your thoughts are on that. But I thought missed opportunity for both of them, really.
Yeah, the team that would be happiest with that would be Coventry because they're stretching their lead to 11 points now. So I think they both would be happy with the point. But you're right, Sterling. It was a game of two halves because, you know, from the highlights, it was obvious that Alex Neil got right into the Millwall team at half time, and they came out, played much more tempo, much more, identity, knew what they were trying to do, and they probably deserved to get a point out of it. So I don't think either of them would be that unhappy to have walked away from a tricky fixture with a point each.
Yeah, I mean, in the general landscape, George, I'm sure you'll agree that it's not the worst point by any means, but you know, an extra 2 points there and beating your arch rivals, but for promotion, would have gone a very, very long way.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, as Simon said, Coventry are laughing at the top of that table because obviously Middlesbrough drew 0-0 to Blackburn, so that just extended their gap to winning the title for one, and the automatics if they have a real drop off in that aspect. But I think both goalkeepers had really good games. Walton and Patterson from the highlights. You know, they both made some cracking saves, and both from point blank range for both sides, really. So I think both sides can have their say of we deserve to win that game because both teams had their chances. But this result for both of them, it's not. I would probably agree with you, Stone. I say Millwall probably would be the happier, but they have the lower goal difference. So being a point above them might have been that helping factor because it's just looking at the table now. Ipswich have a plus 28 goal difference and Millwall have a plus 9. So it's just that could be a difference really at the end of the season because of how compact it is up there. And I think the quality on display in this game. I watched the first half at home before the Brighton game. Oh, not before the Brighton game. What were we on about? We were on at 12:45. Watched the first 15 minutes, sorry, at the Amex, and you could see from the first sort of 10 minutes that I watched, quality on display. It looked high intensity, high quality. It looked like a real, you could say Premier League game, but just a high quality Championship match, and it meant a lot in terms of the table. I think whoever would have won this, if they did win it in the end, would have had a real chance of getting to the automatics, which I think is the reason why both sides will be unhappy with a point. But now that they saw after the full-time whistle that Middlesbrough drew as well, they wouldn't be as frustrated as they would have been if Middlesbrough would have gone and got 3 points at Blackburn. But really competitive game.
Great point about the goal difference because if you look at the table, the game that I wanted to talk about, Southampton, out of those teams in the top six, it's those three at the top and Southampton that have got the good goal difference. And Southampton don't seem to be stopping under Tonda Eckert. He's really transformed them into a team that was struggling down the bottom to a team that's just taken Wrexham's place in the playoffs, and their goal difference is plus 15. I think it's a great point about Ipswich's goal difference, but I think it applies to Southampton as well. I mean, he's quite an interesting character, that Tom Derecker. I saw a bit of him on Football Focus. He's just sort of got this huge back catalogue of experienced coaching in youth football, going back to when he was sort of a teenager, and he was sort of somehow got involved in the German national team as a video analysis and didn't really know what he was doing, but sort of was that talented that they kept him on, and he's had junior coaching positions in Germany, and he was actually brought to Southampton as their under-21 coach under Will Still, but once Will Still left, he sort of got the nod after a bit of a caretaker interim, didn't he? So yeah, they're doing really well, Southampton. They've taken Wrexham's place there, and you wonder whether Wrexham can get themselves back in it.
Yeah. Did he have any professional career experience, this Saints manager? Do you know?
I think that was his first job, wasn't it? This is his
just
first
a career coach.
Yeah, as a proper first team coach, this is his first job.
We're seeing more and more clubs are actually going to career coaches like that.
Yeah.
Say again?
He's got no playing experience.
Yeah. More and more clubs are looking for that, I think, now, because they want coaches that are just purely dedicated to that and no really, I think, like, sort of bias towards what they had in their playing career or whatever the reason might be. But seeing more of that, like Hertzler, for example. But yeah, Saints, unreal, aren't they, George, at the moment?
Yeah, incredible. And, I saw the football notifications popping up my phone, and the game was sort of done in the first 20 minutes. Oxford are a low-scoring side, really, and Southampton had 2 goals in 15 minutes, I'm pretty sure. They brought in that Larin striker in January, and he's been a real nuisance for him. And then I sent you that Shea Charles goal, didn't I, Sterling? Absolute wonder strike from near the halfway line. Unbelievable. It came out from a corner. Just hits it first time. The whip on it's an absolute joke. Flies into the top corner. And yeah, I think that was probably the game done there, because if you look at these two sides' goal difference, I mean, one's on -15 and one's on +15. Do you know what I mean? So you can sort of see the direction of where the game was going from there. And I think it was comfortable for Southampton, and I think they deserved their playoff spot at the minute, because Tom Derecker has proved us wrong, like we said last week, for one. And obviously he's having an absolutely incredible start to his life as, his first job as a first team manager, and he's doing absolutely incredibly. So fair play to him.
Yeah, we didn't think we'd be saying that earlier on in the season. But George, finally you wanted to speak about QPR again. The boy Harvey Vale, another couple of assists and a battering against Pompey, and actually saw a couple of, I think only 2 of the Portsmouth players went and clapped the fans at the end, and one of them was in tears. So shows what a terrible day it was for them, I think.
Yeah, absolutely terrible. And I think that links to what happened in the penalty area, because I think the most astonishing stat for me was QPR had 6 touches in the opposition penalty area, and they scored 6 goals, which I think just shows, I mean, how clinical QPR were for one, but just how poor Pompey were defensively. I mean, how are you letting that happen? 6 touches in the opposition box, and they're all going to goals. I mean, I watched the highlights. It was Smith with a brace, who also got an assist. Coley and Kone, all with braces, and then 2 assists for Harvey Bell for the side. So really good performance. That Coley scored a really, really nice goal, and that Smith looks like a really tidy player as well. And Kone was a proper striker, scored his penalty, tucked it away, and then a classy finish to make it 6. But this was just a absolute domination, really. I think it was 3-1 at half time, and then another 3 goals from QPR in the second half. I mean, QPR, I think this is a quite funny stat. They went from being without a goal in their last 4, and then have scored 9 goals in their last 2 games, when we spoke about the Leicester win last week, 3-1. And then in this game, of course, which just shows how quickly you can, go from not scoring goals to scoring goals in that vast of a fashion. I mean, not as going from 0 to 9 in the space of half of the amount of games would be a shock to the system for QPR fans, but as you said, Sterling, Pompey fans were absolutely furious at full time. Saw some sort of POVs from the away end and also views from the whole stand. You could just see arms are being thrown, just telling them to basically F off back into the changing rooms because of how poor the performance was. And, it's not been a great run of form without a winning 6 and 5 losses, 1 draw, 1 point out of 18. Not looking good, and they just sit a point above the drop zone. So, don't know what you think. QPR season's done, really. They're going to be mid-table, but Pompey's isn't at all. They're going to be open to stay in the division. I don't know if you think they will.
I have thought they will, to be honest, but it's going to be tight. Well, only 1 point above Leicester, but they do have a game in hand on those teams around them. They've only played 38, so I think probably Pompey will. I've not thought that they will go down before now. Have you, Dad?
But getting a run of wins together, I think, and the only team down there that's really doing that is West Brom. You could argue Charlton as well, but Charlton has sort of pulled themselves away from it. Everybody else is really stuttering. Oxford went on a bit of a tear before they lost to Saints and pulled themselves back into contention. But when you look at that, really, you're sort of looking at 2 from maybe 5, I guess. Blackburn could get sucked into it if they're not careful. You'd think that Leicester got too much quality to sort of end up in there. Oxford probably don't have enough. Portsmouth are going to find, the fact they got beat so comprehensively by what is a mid-table team at the end of the day.
Yeah.
QPR lost 4 of the 5 games before that, so it sort of suggests that all's not well in the camp. So they've really got their work cut out from Pompey. I think they're going to struggle. They're away at Norwich after that, and then on Easter Monday, I think it is, they've got Oxford at home, which is a real 6-pointer. So they're going to need to try and get something against Norwich, which won't be easy because Norwich have turned things around, and then not get beat by Oxford. That's the overriding ambition for them.
Yeah, absolutely, and they'll need the fans behind them. But we'll move on to League One, the game I wanted to speak about. Leyton Orient, they pulled themselves away from what seemed like at one point they're getting sucked into a relegation battle. 2-0 win against Wickham, who are quite a good few places above them in the league now and pretty comfortable. So a good result for them. 6 points off relegation. I think he's staying up now. I think nobody really will have any complaints about that. But I mean, not so much about the game, but I think we touched on it earlier on in the season about how many goals they concede. But the thing that stood out to me, they got one of the best goals for, so best goals scored in the league. Only 7 teams better than them out of the whole League One. And the same amount as Bolton in third, who scored quite a lot of goals, Bolton. But this is where their problem is. There's only one team who's got worse, and I think it's by 1 goal, and that's Blackpool for goals against. So Orient, I mean 2 goals in this game and none conceded. I'm sure their fans will be buzzing with that, and I hope for a few more. But that really has been the problem for them. They got Don Ballard up front, who, speaking to Oscar, who likes Leyton Orient, thinks that he'll probably be off in the summer, and you can't help but disagree. But I think that's just crazy, isn't it? To have one of the best goals scored in the league, and then one of the worst goals against. It's just there's no real balance there for him. But I don't know what you guys think. Probably staying up now, no?
Yeah, I think those 4 wins that they've put back to back to back to back are probably going to keep them up. Well, I don't understand what it is with them though, because every time you or Oscar get me to look at Orient, this Don Ballard scoring goals for fun. Have they just got a dodgy keeper or something? What is the problem with them?
I think the keeper's been rubbish. Didn't they have an Albion loanee in goal to the start of the season?
Yeah, they got another loanee keeper, Will Dennison. I don't know if he's online or he's come in, but I remember it being Killian Cahill at the start of the season. But I'm just checking. Yeah, this Will Dennis came in January, so they've obviously reverted to a new goalkeeper. I think Ballard's been injured, and ever since he's come back, he's sort of turned their form around. And about the stats you're saying about their goals against and goals for, doesn't surprise me if how many goals they've scored, because they got Archibald, they got that Wellens behind in the manager's son. They got Don Ballard, Aaron Connolly when he was playing was bagging in the goals for fun, and defensively, that's where they're not well, evidently not strongest, are they? Only conceding one less goal than Blackpool here in the drop zone. I mean, from just looking at the names, that Morris used to play for Watford, and then apart from that, I'm not really sure of any of the other names. I mean, not great. And it's going to be something they're going to have to sort out next season. I mean, Wickham did go down to 10 in the first 10 minutes with an Allen red card, which could have been a reason why Orient didn't concede a goal, and probably would have been a shock to the system for Leyton Orient fans that they actually kept a clean sheet for once. But
Yeah,
I think it's an important win, because they're away from the relegation zone now, but I think it's another damaging result for Wickham. We spoke about it, well, maybe last episode or the episode before, definitely, that they're really inconsistent at the minute, and they've had results recently that have put damage to their playoff hopes, and this is another one. Just looking at their form, one win in their last four, and they're 4 points off the playoffs now. I think they're too inconsistent to get in there, but as you've been saying, I think Leyton Orient are comfortably going to be a League One side next season.
Yeah,
well, another
definitely.
team that's going to be a League One side is Port Vale, and they somehow beat Bolton, which was one game I was going to talk about, because with Cardiff drawing at home to Blackpool, it was a chance for Bolton to get themselves a little bit closer to the Welsh club, but they go to the bottom of the table. Port Vale, obviously making lots of assumptions about how Port Vale are going to play and what sort of test they're going to face, and get beat 1-0. Hugely frustrating. Hugely frustrating, because Cardiff have been slipping a little bit of late. Lincoln have really pulled away from them. Two draws and a defeat and a win in the previous 5 games, so not a tremendous record. And Bolton, if they could have gone to Port Vale and got a win, might have pulled themselves into the position where they're breathing down Cardiff's neck, but they bottled it basically. They lost 1-0, and deservedly so, I think.
Yeah, Bolton have been inconsistent all season, so as much as this is a surprising result, doesn't come as too much of a shock, because they've had these sorts of slip-ups throughout the season, which is why they're not higher up, isn't it? But Port Vale, some of their results over the last month or even 2, since about February, beating Bristol City and Sunderland in the Cup, got a draw against Huddersfield, and now beating Bolton. It makes you wonder where this has been the whole season, and why they're not doing or haven't done better than where they are now, because they're certain to go down. But it just begs the question for me.
They
Yeah,
seem to
I
be
agree.
better against better teams for some reason. They think they knocked Sunderland and Bristol City out of the FA Cup, both higher than them. They went to Huddersfield and got a point, but then in between times they've lost 3-2 to Blackpool. Who are right down there with them. So they don't seem to be raising their game against the teams that they should do, which are the teams around them, really. But you look at the stats for that. Look at the stats for that game, and put Bolton were never in it really. They had line share possession, but Port Vale had more shots than they did, and their XG was higher than them. So yeah, poor performance from Bolton and a slip up.
Yeah, what do you think, George?
Yeah, I just think it's a story of Bolton's season, really, that they pick up a bit of momentum and then they go away from home to bottom of the league and losing games like this. I mean, credit to Port Vale, obviously a very good result and a clean sheet, which probably would be very rare for them, seeing as they're bottom of the table. I mean, look at the table, they have 3 games in hand on some teams, but they're just not consistent enough to stay in the division this season. I mean, you can have 3 games in hand, but I doubt they'll get more than 6 points if they're really lucky. I mean, if they get maybe a win and a draw, they can see themselves with a chance. They go level on points with Northampton, but then they're still 7 points away from it. And I just can't see it happening. But when you're seeing performances like this, like you've both been saying, why they're in the situation that they're in at the moment? Because you're keeping clean sheets against Bolton with the attack that they have. That Kenny we spoke about the other week was playing Europa League football the other month, and
Yeah.
he's gone to Port Vale and not been able to get on the score sheet. So begs the question, doesn't it? Really, I mean, credit to Port Vale, but I don't see him staying in the division. But Bolton will be absolutely fuming because Cardiff have been so inconsistent recently. But they in their last 3 they haven't won, and they haven't been able to punish what's been really poor run of form for Cardiff, and Bolton have been on that same poor run of form, and Lincoln are basically laughing at the top of the table, and they look like they're going to cruise to the League One title.
Yeah, I think so. I think we all agree on that. Some serious movement in the playoff places, though. Huddersfield slipped right out of it, haven't they? In 9th now. And you can't say that it wasn't coming because of their recent results, and we've been speaking about it the last few episodes. But they lost 3-1 to Plymouth, didn't they, George? Which is a massive result for Plymouth in their own rights. But yeah, what were your thoughts on it, mate?
Yeah, massive result for Argyle, and Huddersfield slipping up again under Liam Manning, who had a really good start, 3 wins on the bounce, which I spoke about, I remember, and ever since then, it's been really poor. One of the stats I've got is just since that 3 wins on the bounce, they've had 2 wins in their last 10 games, all in all competitions, 2 wins, 3 draws, 5 losses. You're never going to be in the playoffs without a run of form, are you? So it's not looking not looking great there. But they are 1-0 up at half time. Cameron Humphreys with a great goal on loan from Ipswich, and the second half they just looked a completely different team, to be honest. From the extended highlights, they didn't look to have a sniff. Plymouth equalised early on with an own Dale goal, and then Peppel with a penalty. He's been incredible for them. Peppel, I think he's Canadian international off the top of my head, and he's got 15 in all comps this season. He's been unreal for them. And then Oseni in the 87th minute wraps it up, really. 3 points for Argyle. But I think one of the most interesting stats about this game was the way that I think Tom Cleverley must have had Plymouth playing, because you look at the stats from the first half to the second half. First half, Plymouth had 56% possession, but only 0.35 XG, and obviously went 1-0 down at the break. And then in the second half, they had a 3.1 XG, but with 29% possession. I think this stat just shows how, possession, you don't need a lot of possession to create chances in football. And I think this stat's a real prime example of that. And Argyle literally changed the way that they were playing and completely dominated Huddersfield in the second half, but just with basically nearly half the amount of possession they had in the first half, which is absolutely mental, isn't it? But Huddersfield, as I said, too inconsistent, but Argyle unbeaten in 5, 4 wins and a draw in their last 5, which is the sort of form you want to be in the playoffs, isn't it? So it's the complete opposite to Huddersfield, but I think Plymouth will be in the playoffs the way they're playing, and in terms of Huddersfield, I just can't see it happening at the minute. They're way too inconsistent. I don't know what you both think about it, but I thought it was a really good, and I think it was a sort of a statement to sort of some teams that you don't need a lot of possession to create chances, because they've nearly wrapped up 3 XG in one half of football with half the amount of possession, which is brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a good. They're sort of a mirror image almost of Southampton in Championship, aren't they? Because they had a really poor start, and they not changed the manager, but he certainly got them playing. Interesting stats there, but they've really made a statement with that win and the win against Stevenage the week before. I think Plymouth beating both of those playoff teams has firmly put them up there around it. I was surprised Huddersfield because they had a good result against Lincoln, a score draw before that in midweek. So you thought maybe they might have turned things around, but they've started to stutter a little bit, and it is a surprise. But it's not a surprise in so much that it's Plymouth rather, that are catching them. So it's going to be tight for those final two places, 5th and 6th place. I don't think Bolton and Bradford are any serious danger personally, but you could throw a blanket over anything from Stockport down to maybe even Luton in 11th that could go on a run. Stevenage got a game in hand, Stockport got 2, so they're sort of in the box seats at the moment. But yeah, surprising result from Huddersfield, and not that surprising to see Plymouth, because they were in the Championship last season, so
true.
starting to find their feet a little bit in the most important part of the season.
Yeah, he looks like he's got him starting to tick over cleverly, quite nicely. So I have to see, and I think most of us put them up there. So yeah, potentially they'll creep in there in the League One playoffs. But we'll move on to League Two, and the team we spoke about last week, Notts County. They had a really poor result against Chesterfield, didn't they? Which damaged their automatic promotion hopes. But since then, they've scored 9 goals, beat Accrington Stanley on Tuesday last week, 4-0 away from home, and then backed it up with a 5-2 battering against Cheltenham. I mean, there's one way to make a statement to the rest of the league and say, we might have dropped out of there. Because I think they were in there, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they were in and amongst it. But those top 3, Bromley, Milton Keynes, Cambridge, do seem to be quite a staple in that automatic promotion spots. But regardless, they're making statements saying that we're here to stay, and they're only a couple points off Cambridge, who I think actually I was going to say I thought I saw them lose on the weekend, but no, they beat Salford 1-0. MK Dons lost. That's it exactly. So they're right on the tails, aren't they, Notts County?
Yeah, 100%. And this was a real statement win. I completely agree with you. MK Dons lost, I think, at home to Barnet, off the top of my head, in the early kickoff. But Notts County, seeing that result, would have made this win even more valuable. Beating a Cheltenham side 2 at half time, just looking at the game here, and Isaac Hutchinson getting a brace for Cheltenham, who's been their best player by a mile this season. But Notts County, brilliant result, and they have picked it up not recently, in sort of the second half of the season. And Martin Patterson, I think we all kind of were, but me mainly, were sort of doubting them sort of at areas of the season that there would even be a playoff side because of the runs of form that they are on compared to what they were doing last season, and how they've been performing in seasons before. But recently, he's brushed that aside, and he's got his side playing some brilliant football. 5-star performance, really, and that result's probably a statement, as you said, Sir, to the league and to the 3 teams above them, that they are still in with a fight, and just the 2 points off of Cambridge now. They're right back in it, don't you think, Simon?
Yeah, I don't think they ever really seriously went away. I think they're one of the best teams in the division. I don't know if you've seen the highlights, but the 3rd goal from County, I'm probably going to butcher this, Irapena. He gets the ball, sort of runs 20 yards, takes it round 2 defenders and lashes it in to put them 3-2 up, and they sort of went on to cement the victory once, especially when Cheltenham went down to 10 men. Shearing got sent off in the 81st minute, but I think it was 4-2. I think they're definitely one of the better teams in it, and I think you're right in terms of the top 3, but I don't think they're going to catch Cambridge, but they're definitely going to be in the playoffs, and I think they're going to be one of the favourites to go through, frankly.
Yeah, well, George, you're right that they did lose MK Dons 3-1 to Barnet, and they've actually, Notts County, got a game in hand, and they're 4 points off of MK Dons, so, could narrow that down to only a point. So, yeah, they're definitely in and amongst it. But another team that, well, Will they be in with a sniff? They're one of the more interesting teams to talk about in League Two this season is Walsall getting a big win against Newport 2-1, but they've just been so inconsistent, haven't they? You know, going such a good start to the season and then rubbish mid-season and potentially, dare I say it, pulling it back to maybe creep into the playoffs. What do you reckon, Dad?
I don't think so. No, I think that this result made me think, well, they're probably not going to do it because they should be brushing teams like Newport aside. Frankly, I mean they're in danger of getting themselves relegated into the National League at this stage, Newport. And if you've got any pretensions of getting yourselves into the playoffs, you've got to be going to places like, getting Newport coming to your gaff and sweeping them aside. And the fact of the matter is, they had to come from behind to get the 3 points anyway. And it wasn't until the 97th minute that they managed to get the winner.
Yeah.
So I know Darren Byfield's sort of new to the job and settling into it, etc., etc. But it's a hugely disappointing result, even though it was 3 points, and it doesn't fill me with any optimism, quite frankly, about going forward. In the midweek, they drew at home to Cambridge, which was a decent result. I spoke last week about them beating Crewe 3-0, which sort of seemed to start Byfield's reign on a really positive note. And I guess he'd turn around and say, well, I've won 2 and drawn 1 in my first 3 games. I don't really know what you're complaining about. And the fact that it was the 97th minute is immaterial. But I just looked at that and thought, yes, doesn't instill any confidence in me, quite frankly, that. So, yeah, I think they've probably got a midweek game, haven't they? Walsall.
I'm not sure.
No,
But with what's been such a shaky season anyway, they've not gone. I was just going to say, with what's been such a shaky season, only really scraping past Newport, I do see where you're coming from. But so only 2 points off Grimsby, who are just in the playoff places in 7th. So, could easily get in there if results go their way. But Grimsby, George, I know you want to speak about them, so I'm queuing you in nicely here. They've got game in hand on Chesterfield, Crewe and Walsall, who are just below them. But they're playing well as well. They're another good side in this division who probably do deserve, if you're thinking about their season in general, they've been fairly consistent, haven't they? I think that they deserve to be in the playoffs come the end of it, and they got a good win, didn't they?
Yeah, really good win for Grimsby. Battered Barrow, to be honest, who now go to the bottom of the league, and I think they're probably one of the most likely teams out of that sort of pack of 5 or 6 to be in the National League next season. But in terms of the game, Cabia with man of the match, 2 goals and an assist, quality season since he jumped up 2 leagues from the National League South, 17 goals and an assist in all competitions. And that Kieran Green got a brace, who has 11 goals and 4 assists in all comps this season. And he impressed me and I think both of you in that Western Supermare Cup game where he got the flick on from the corner. And he was really good in the game as well. And then other goal was Andy Cook. He's joined on loan from Bradford in January, and he's got four goals since joining. So shows that Bradford are loaning out players. They're confident enough to sell their strikers to clubs in the league below, get them a bit of game time, and obviously he'll be buzzing about that, getting goals for fun in this league. Obviously being a League One player, but Grimsby, as he said, in the playoffs now by goal difference, but on a decent run of form, 4 wins out of their last 6. So I think they might make the playoffs. But I think what you're saying about Walsall with players like Daniel Carnu up top, he's been an absolute joke for them this season. Who scored in that Newport game? I'm pretty sure, didn't he? But correct me if I'm wrong. But Barrow, as I'm speaking about, and they continue to be so poor defensively. And watching the highlights, they look like they defended dreadfully. No winning 8. I think they could be. They might be down, to be honest. And the run of form that they're on, it doesn't look like they're going to find that spark. But be interesting to see if Grimsby end up in the playoffs. I don't know what you think about it.
Yeah, Kanu was one of the goal scorers for Walsall. He got the equaliser on Saturday.
Oh,
Barrow
did he? Yeah.
down. Barrow down. There's no chance them turning that round. I think you got 4 teams down there: Crawley, Newport, Harrogate, and Barrow. 2 of those 4 going to go down. And they look like the most likely, quite frankly.
Oh yeah, because Crawley sacked Scott Lindsay. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah,
Crawley sacked Scott Lindsay. So it's going to be another change in management there.
I wouldn't write Barrow off. They've got more wins. Actually, funny enough, Harrogate, Barrow, and Newport have all got more wins than Crawley. Crawley have just drawn more games. So, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't write them off. 2 points with a game in hand.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be ever so tight.
So tight though, isn't it? I mean, it's going to be a cracking end to the season with just 2 relegation spots, which we could go on for about an hour and a half, or why there shouldn't be 2 relegation spots and make it 3 or 4. But you know, it's so congested, isn't it?
The reason I said they will go down, the next 3 games are against Bromley, MK Dons, and Chesterfield.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
You know, 2 of them are at home, granted, but if they get more than a point out of those 3 games, I should be surprised. So I think they should be cut adrift by the end of that little sequence of games. Grimsby, must be one of the form teams in the division. I think they really put themselves in the playoff picture. But realistically, when you look at that playoff picture, you can't see those top 6 being shifted, quite frankly. I know Salford lost at the weekend, but I can't see them top 6 not being the top 6. So you're really literally looking at one place, and you've got maybe 4 or 5 teams contesting it. So Grimsby have got themselves there at the moment, but any slip up is going to let teams in like Walsall, maybe even all the way down to Oldham.
Yeah, it is really, really tight in League Two, but we'll have to see, and we'll move on to National League. Some really high-scoring games in this division. One being Carlisle 6, Boston 2, which is actually a really good result for Carlisle. I mean, they're a really good side themselves, and Boston have been probably if not one of the form sides in the second half of the season, and they've been battering teams, haven't they? It was who did they batter? Scunthorpe. I think it was the same result actually. But at Scunthorpe's place. So yeah, they've been on the hands of one themselves. On the wrong end of it, should we say, to Carlisle, haven't they, George?
Yeah, really surprising result in this one. But I think it just shows how well Carlisle are playing at the minute. Really good side in this league. And, we speak about it. They're one of those teams where they're, comfortably in the playoffs now, and their aim would just to be finishing in the top 3, so then they don't have to play in a playoff eliminator. So then they just go straight to the semi-finals because they're so far inside the playoffs. That's only the real thing they've got to play for. But Boston were 2-1 up at half-time after going 1-0 down. But then sending off from the goal scorer for Boston, Frankie Maguire, changed the game because it led to a penalty which Regan Linney, who got his 15th National League goal of the season, levelled up the game with 30 minutes to go, and then it was domination there. 4 goals in 20 minutes from the home side to make it 6-2 in the end, as he said. Showing that red card was a real turning point in the game for Boston. But David Ajiboye, got a brace. He was the player that scored that solo goal against Forest Green, like the song goal, just kept going and going and going from his own half. He's been incredible. I think he only joined a bit later in the season. He's got 7 goals, 4 assists this season. I think personally, just from watching him a few times from highlights and etc., if Carlisle don't go up, I think he will move to the EFL next season, if that be with Carlisle or not, because the way he's performing in this division is very, very impressive. But Carlisle went on a good run of form. Just 2 losses in their last 9 games, 6 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses, and this was a result which they overcame because they lost last Saturday away to Tamworth. So this result, a thumping win, would have been sort of a result to settle them back down and put them back on the right sort of right
Path,
ribbon,
yeah.
really. Yeah, that's it.
I think the result flattered Carlisle a little bit, frankly, when I looked at this, because, as you say, Boston were 2-1 up, and they had Frankie Maguire sent off, and
Yeah,
Carlisle equalised from the penalty spot, and then it just went south as far as Boston were concerned after that. So, who knows what would have happened if the sides had stayed level, because, as you say, they'd slipped up against Tamworth. I
yeah,
think that's the danger for these teams that are in those top places in the National League. It's why I want to talk about York, really. It's not so much that they won at the weekend. It's just how do you keep yourself motivated when you're that far in front, because I think Carlisle, you could put them in the same bracket, although they're 14 points adrift of York. I think you've still got that idea of how do you keep yourself motivated for these games, because you're going to be playing in the playoffs and you want to make sure you're fit to play in the playoffs. So, you get a team like Boston turn up and start dictating play, and you start wondering what it is you've got to do to overcome them. You're in the same trap as you were in the game against Tamworth. I think that's the danger with these teams. York have still got a great chance of catching Rochdale, but I just think Rochdale in such good nick at the moment, it's going to be really difficult for them to catch them. But it was a good win for them at the weekend, York, beating Brackley 4-0. I mean, Brackley are down the wrong end of the table, but they still need to be dealt with, and I think that's the trouble with Carlisle. They just looked like they were on a ride into another surprise there until the sending off.
Yeah, I was going to say Brackley are a poor side, but you can only beat who's in front of you, right? So good result, and they are still in it. So York, they'll be hoping that Rochdale slip up, and that's what they're praying for. But you're right, it doesn't really seem they haven't really slipped up much all season. Neither of them have. So, 94 and 92 points they're on is ridiculous, really, isn't it? Let's be honest. And I do think that's a really good point. It's quite a conundrum what these teams with only one automatic promotion spot. What do these other teams do? Because as a player, you're thinking, well, I know we're not going to get automatic. I want to be ready for the playoffs, as you said, Dad. And as a manager, you're thinking, well, I've got to G 'em up. Got the fans, got the board on your back, people paying to come watch. You want to keep momentum, but then he's probably thinking the gaffer or she, whoever it is, don't even know who the gaffer is, so not gonna go there. But that they're going to be thinking, well, I don't want my best player to get injured. I might start resting people, but then how far do you drop out? It is an interesting one. I don't know what you think about that, George.
yeah. No, I agree. That's the reason I'm saying it, and I think we spoke about it in weeks before that teams in the area that Carlisle are in, for example, they just don't really have a lot to play for, which is a reason why fans are going up on about the free up campaign, so that it's a bit more competitive for them come the end of the seasons, which is why I agree with you both. I mean, York obviously dominant in this game, and Brackley, we spoke about it last week. I'm pretty sure don't have a lot of fans. Doubt they would have brought a lot to York, so that would have been a real factor in that performance, because York obviously bring a lot of a big crowd every week, and obviously have a good side. They've got Ollie Pearce and Josh Stones, who probably both scored. Not even looking at it, but just off the top of my head, they both did. Yeah, both does it shock me because they literally score every week. Then so it's like Messi and Ronaldo, the National League, but both playing in the same
104
side.
goals they've scored this season, York. 104
Oh, it's
goals
crazy,
in 39 games.
absolutely mental. And
They've got to be
there's still 7
red
games
hot
to go.
favourites to win that. They've got to be red hot
Yeah,
favourites to win the playoff if that's where they end up.
Oh, definitely.
yeah.
Surely.
Seven games to go as well, and they're already on 104. Basic question to how many they can get before the end of the season. I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? But cracking performance, and also, fair play to Carlisle overcoming that result against Tamworth the week before, and thumping Boston, who we were speaking about recently. They had their purple patch sort of form in January to the start of March, but sort of slightly died down recently. I had it on my information. 1 win in the last 4. 1 win, 1 draw, 2 losses. But I think that was expected to happen because they were in the drop zone before that purple patch, but sort of coming back down to earth really in the last couple of weeks. But they've steered themselves to safety, which is all they'll be caring about.
Last
I
thing
think
to mention
Boston might
about
be a song.
last thing to mention about these two, Rochdale and York, is the last game of the season is Rochdale versus York.
Oh my God, what a game.
Yeah, they'll be gearing up for that then, won't they?
Yeah.
Mate,
I was going
that
to
is
say as
incredible.
well, that's huge. I was going to say as well, you made a good point about the free up campaign. It would definitely make it more competitive, but if it's this season, then those two are going to be the two up quite comfortably. But then
Yeah.
it could make it different. You know, we don't know what it's like inside the Carlisle camp. It could be like for weeks that they're, so to speak, on the beach before this playoff game. So whatever, who knows? But I think it'll be good in general. But I wanted to speak about before we move on, Woking 3, Aldershot 2. And I've mentioned a few times, I've got a mate of mine from my old work who is a big Woking fan. Look like absolute scenes because this is a bit of a derby. Don't know
Huge
what
derby.
derby. Don't know what you. Yeah, I say a bit of a derby, massive derby. The reason I say a bit of a derby is because I don't know like what proximity they are. I don't know what you'd call it. I've never heard of it before in my life, but I know that they're rivals now. And the clubs were saying, you know, if you come in, just go to support the team and don't make any mess. In other words, don't start any fights or cause any chaos. But
Yeah.
massive result for Woking, and they've extended that run of form. They beat Yeovil before this as well after last week, so in midweek, and then backed it up again with a massive result. And this for the fans is what they want to see because they're going to be comfortable staying up now, and we know that there's nothing really to play for them. But the manager's trying to prove himself, and this is what their fans wanted. They wanted a big win here. Maybe, Dad, you can say what sort of rivalry this is in terms of area, but I know that the fans are buzzing, and they've got a really, really good set of fans. So, yeah, really good result for Woking.
Yeah, well, it's a massive rivalry. If you think the rivalry between Brighton and Crystal Palace, I think it's about 10 miles from Aldershot to Woking. It's no distance at all. So yeah,
Fair enough.
I think they that's quite an understandable rivalry. I think Aldershot are in trouble. I don't know if they are safe, frankly. I mean,
No, I was
they've lost.
saying Woking are safe, so
Woking.
they're happy with that
Oh
result. Yeah,
yeah,
Aldershot
Woking
are
are
in
Yeah.
right
trouble.
up. Yeah, a bit more consistency. They may be challenging for that final place in the playoffs. But Aldershot, yeah, they're in huge trouble. That's 5 wins on the bounce that they've lost. So you can't count Gateshead and Morecambe out of that, I don't think.
No.
They're both sort of picking up wins. Gateshead have got 3 in the last 6, Morecambe 2 in the last 6. And if you're losing 5 of your last 6, you're going to get caught eventually. You've only got 7 games to go, I think. But yeah, it's an interesting one, that. A bit of not exactly featuring on the list of people's top derbies, but as
No,
we saw when we went to see Tonbridge Angels, sort of people do latch on down to these lower
Yeah.
divisions on sort of things that might pass most people by.
yeah,
And you get
definitely.
a bit of year 9 aggro going on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they are very well supported, especially in the National League, and even like down Ishmian, there's some really big like clubs that have got a really good following. What is it?
Yeah,
Dulwich Hamlet in the
yeah.
Ishmian. So it's
Yeah,
not
about
entirely
5,000 there
surprising
as
to
well.
see.
They've been a
Hey,
stalwart. That 5,000 there at the weekend. They've been a
yeah,
stalwart, really, of this level of football for a donkey's years. Where can they sort of never go up and they never go down? They seem to have been there in this division for donkey's years. Whereas Aldershot,
yeah,
Mm.
of course, historically were a football league side at one stage. As we've said before, they're one of the ex-football league sides in there. But I think they're historically not as recent in terms of Football League status.
Yeah, well, as I said, the gaffer at Woking's doing really well and maybe cementing himself for next season, and they're really getting behind him, actually, the fans. So we'll have to see if he can carry on this unreal form, then maybe they'll be able to challenge next season. But we'll move on to National League South. Some big results. Quite happy to see this. Maidenhead 2, Dorking 0. I really like Dorking, so the reason I'm happy to see this because I think it's just keeping it tasty up
I
there.
say, yeah,
because
definitely.
because if they had not, there was a period, wasn't there, where they weren't losing any games and they looked to start running away from it. But the last few weeks, Dorking have started to slip up a little bit. I know they got a win against Ebbsfleet after I think 3 without a win, and now 2-0 loss to Maidenhead, who are in the playoffs as well. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
Massive, and it's keeping it interesting. Dad, you're going to speak about it anyway. Worthing got a win as well. I'm not sure about the Hornchurch result. Let me know, but yeah, it's
Hornchurch
definitely
lost as
keeping it in.
well.
Yeah, so there you go. Worthing have gained on both of them with a win against Tottenham. And yeah, it's nice to see it. One team not running away with it for like just too much, because we want to go up to watch Dorking versus Worthing at Meadowbank, don't we? So it'll be good if they're close at that point.
Yeah. No, 100%. I completely agree with you. It'd make a cracker of a bunch of amateurs episode and an even better game, wouldn't it? In terms of the two results, Maidenhead obviously National League side last season, so Dorking going there would have been a hard game, but Maidenhead cracking result for them and their push to sort of stay in the playoff positions. But in terms of Worthing, this is a huge result. I mean, Tottenham did have their manager move on to Torquay after Tottenham's managers had a really good start to not life in the National League South, and he's earned himself a move to replace the interim boss of Neil Warnock. But Tottenham interim manager, obviously not the greatest of starts. Worthing 3-0. I think Teddy Jenks got a brace, and it was Moultron with the other. I can't remember off the top of my head, but
Is
yeah,
that new
really,
signing, isn't he?
yeah. That Moultron's a really good player. On loan from Watford, I'm pretty sure, but he's from this area. He was a former Albion Academy product, but he went to Watford in the summer. But anyway, I agree with you. I think it just keeps the title race ticking and hopefully keeps it to the wire. But I think one team that sort of snuck their way into it because of this result, because Hemel Hempstead beat Hornchurch, and
Yeah,
they've got into third place on 67 points, and they've got a game in hand on
crazy.
both Worthing and Dorking. If they win that game in hand, it reduces their deficit to Dorking to just 4 points. So
Yeah,
they've stuck their way into it, and just looking at the form guide, they've won their last 5 games. So crazy run of
yeah.
form from them. But yeah, as you said at the start of the segment, Sterling, this game week has caused a lot of twists and turns to the table, especially at the top.
Yeah, I don't know where they've come from, Hemel Hempstead, but they have, to be fair, slowly been going about their business. They've been there and amongst it all season, but to go to third is absolutely crazy.
Mm.
And then, yeah, I mean, just looking at Worthing, what is that? 6 points. So one Dorking loss and them winning, and then they go up to Meadowbank and get a result. It could be, all square come that game. So, yeah, we'll have to see. What do you think about it all, Dad?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not so sure that I like the fact that Dorking are pulling away from Worthing, because I think Worthing are probably the better team in that division. It was good to see them win at Tottenham, because they looked really out of sorts with each other when we saw them against Tonbridge Angels. But yeah,
Yeah.
they've definitely turned it around since then, haven't they? So I think that win was on the back of a win against Chelmsford as well. I mean, Teddy Jenks is obviously playing at a level below where he should be playing, and the fact that he
Yeah,
missed that
Yeah.
definitely.
game against Tonbridge,
100%.
I think, really, really affected them. He got a couple on the weekend, so yeah, it'd be nice for them to get back into it. While you were talking, I was just reminded of the fact that it's non-league day on Saturday, where
Yeah.
lots of clubs are making an effort to encourage people to go and see their local non-league team. So I think we should make the effort and go and see someone at the weekend. And if it's Worthing, that would be great.
Yeah, I'm not sure who Worthing have got on the weekend. I mean, I'm busy. I'm on Mrs. duty, so you have to go without me. But don't think she's up for going to watch somebody play in London, to be honest. But I know Worthing have got what they call Western Supermare tonight. Recording this on Tuesday.
Oh, yeah, they're away at
Dorking,
on Saturday.
and Dorking have got Torquay away tonight. So two big games. Yeah,
Yeah,
two
that's
big
two really
games.
big games. Yeah, that is
But
really big games for both sides. But yeah, I have to see how that
yeah.
unfolds in next episode because this table could take a lot of twists and turns by episode 35.
Yeah. I mean, looking towards the other end of the table, I think say goodbye to Eastbourne Borough. I said to you on the weekend it would be nice. I think I said last week and all, didn't I?
Yeah.
But this is they've lost to Chippenham 5-2 away. Chippenham, another team that's in the relegation zone. So that's sealed it. I think if there was any debate before this that they're down, it'll be good to see them play Lewis next season. It'll be one that we could definitely target to go and watch. But yeah, I mean, it is gutting to see them in that situation. Chippenham aren't a great side, are they? Let's be honest. But Eastbourne Borough have been probably the worst all season, and seeing them have such a good season last year, compared to now, it's just mental, really, that they can go from such heights to such lows, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely mental, to be honest. I don't think Borough season will be ending up like this. There's been no wins under Steve King, the manager, who has a lot of controversy, yet to pick up a win in his first 4 games, let alone point. Just 3 goals under him so far, so just doesn't look like there's going to be any hope for them. But credit to Chippenham, you can't take anything away from them because they've won their last 5 games at home, 5 home wins on the bounce for them. But about that, I saw that and I thought, well, if they're doing this well at home, how are they doing away? And then I go to the away stats. They've had 6 away points all season. They've won 1
Wow.
away game all season, 3 draws and 16 losses. I mean, that is literally the sole reason why they are in that situation, that their home form is abysmal, to be honest. I mean, that's almost as worse as Brighton's in the first season in the Premier League. We only had 1 win, didn't we? At Swansea away. That was about
Away
it.
from home, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
Chippenham are
most
turning into
bonkers,
Brighton.
bonkers stat we've had all evening, that is, that Chippenham have managed to win 1 and draw 3 away from home and lost 16. It's just beggars belief what's going on there.
Crazy, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's a mad stat, mad stat. And they've had 32 points at home, which is basically
Yeah.
their old points tally this season.
That's,
So,
yeah.
yeah,
They'll
they
it's
be
should be,
crazy,
gutted with
isn't
that,
it?
I think.
they should be
Yeah.
comfortably mid-table with that home record. Well,
Home record, yeah.
bottom
I,
half.
I
But,
remember Dorking drew their first game of the season, and I thought, from watching the bunch of amateurs highlights, they looked a decent side, but away from home, they just look like they're playing their B team. I don't know what's going on. I mean, they've got Anointed Chokwu, who's on loan from Worthing. He's scored.
Yeah.
This Kane Badbury's got 6 goals this season. They had 5 different goal scorers against Borough across all 5 goals. I mean, at home it's looking decent, but as we're saying, away from home it's not looking good at all. But I mean, in terms of Borough, they brought in this Lee Engel, who's been at Lincoln before. He's just had really good EFL experience as a striker. He got on the score sheet, but it's just not enough. They concede in too many goals, and they can score 2 goals, but they just always seem to concede way too many, and that's one of the sole reasons they're down there. But it's a staggering stat about Chippenham's form away from home, isn't it? And it's just a mess for Borough. But I think Chippenham, they found a bit of a spark really, especially at home. So I have to see if they can stay up, considering how good of a home record they had for a relegation battle inside.
Yeah. I don't know if they've got any fans going away from home, Chippenham, but if they have, I feel sorry for them because that is woeful. But too little, too late for Borough bringing in people to score goals for them and try to save their season. They're down home and dry, I think. But move on to Isthmian Premier Division. I just wanted to touch on Burgess Hill because I've been speaking in previous episodes about maybe them getting into the playoffs. Well, I think any conversation of that might have been deaded on the weekend, or even if they do get in there, don't think they're going to be able to compete with these sides because they lost 3-0 at home to Chatham Town, who are in
Yeah.
third, which I think is just a subtle reminder of them, knowing where they are. They've done really well to get in this position, to be honest. And maybe just a step too far for them to go into the playoffs because I don't think I think Dad, you said this last week or maybe the week before, they can't really compete with these sides. I think this proves it. 3-0 at home to Chatham. That was their first loss in 4 because they had 4 on the bounce wins. Just looking at the form guide, might have been more. Chatham themselves have got 5 wins in a row. So, yeah, I mean, Burgess Hill, I think that for me just proves that they're not going to get in there. I don't know what you guys think.
I think the top 6, top 5 rather are set in stone. Personally,
We
I think
said
Yeah.
that before, haven't we?
yeah,
Yeah, we
Folkestone
have. Yeah.
Victor miles in front. I think Dartford beat Lewis at the weekend, didn't they? So
4-1.
4-1.
Yeah.
4-1. They don't really look like they've got any hope of catching Billericay, I don't think, at this stage. There's only 22 teams in that division, so you took about 42 games, so you've got 6 games left each. So never
Yeah.
say never, but yeah, I think that's set in stone personally. Another hugely disappointing result for Lewis, that getting beat 4-0 at
Yeah.
Dartford,
Season
1
done.
rather at Dartford. The goal difference for Lewis is minus 34, which is, apart from the bottom 2, Canvey Island and Potters Bar Town, that's the worst in the division.
Mm.
So
It's
they've got
woeful,
some
isn't it?
fundamental rethinking to be done at that club. Otherwise, they're not going to be playing at this level next
Yeah.
Yeah.
season if they don't sort
We
that
all
out.
want to see them turn it round because it is a really well-run club,
It's money though. It's moolah.
Mulan,
What you're doing with the money.
why don't you
And that,
invest in it?
yeah,
You
would
can,
be.
you can invest on the website. You can invest.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
can. Go on
You can
its
be a
site.
shareholder. Yeah.
Is there a casino site that I can link to as well?
Oh, put a pound in. Put a pound in. You're a shareholder, Lewis.
If I win on the lottery, maybe.
Euro
Yeah.
Millions tonight, and 80 million on Euro Millions or
There you
something
go.
like.
If I win that, I'll put you two in charge, and I'll just be a silent investor.
You can be data. You can be data analysis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be a good
All.
job for you.
Yeah. All have our different roles.
You can do a bit of coding. But anyway, George, you've finished the episode up with Carl Shelton. You wanted to speak about this. You sent me one of the goals. It was an absolute screamer, to be fair.
Mm.
And they've signed some really good players as well, haven't they? Eddie Allsop, formerly of Lewis, one of them.
Yeah. Really. Really. Change of the season really happening at Carl Shorten since they parted ways with one of their long-term managers in Peter Adienju, something like that. Off the top of my head, I can't remember, but they replaced him, and since then, the manager has brought in some very good signings. As he said, Eddie Allsop, this Nathan Young Coombs signed from Wiltstone, and he used to be a part of the Brentford Academy. And when I saw his name sort of being in an Isthmian Premier Division side, I was a bit confused of how they'd got that over the line, seeing he was playing in the National League just a couple of months ago. So massive credit to him. The manager must have had an absolute worldie getting him over the line. But in terms of the other signings, Ryan Huck on loan from Farnborough, and then this Leo Young's on loan from Wimbledon. But yeah, as I said, Peter Adieni. There you go. I found the manager's name now on my doc.
Yeah.
Did a bit of information about this, and he was replaced by Stephen Bates in mid-February. And since then, they've been on a decent little run at form, and Nathan Young-Coombs scored in the game alongside former Lewis winger Turla Ladapo, who was a very good player for Lewis, had a bit about him. I think he was there last season, and then Denzel Akimpong with with a goal, and then an absolute screamer, as he said, Serbian, from Fabio Savria. Unbelievable. Ball gets thrown in, lets it come across his body, first time outside the box. Technique was a joke. Top bins, had it all to make it 3-0 just after half time, and sort of just seal the win, really, just after half time for Carl Shilton. 3 wins on the bounce for him now. Sit 4 points above the drop zone with wins against Canvey, Cheshunt, and obviously this game to make it 9 points from 9 in the last 3. But Wingate are just above them with 40, 6 points above the drop. But this was their first loss in the last 2 after 2 wins on the bounce versus Cray Valley, Paper Mills and Dartford before this defeat. So 2 good results there, but they've also got a cup final to look forward to. They beat Redbridge in the league below in the semi-finals of the Velocity Cup, which we spoke about at the start of the season, which some teams in this division have a bit of silverware in this competition, like Billericay, for example. They'll play Ramsgate in the final at Averley being the neutral ground for it. I think should be a good game. Rare bit of silverware and then on the line for teams in this division, which obviously you're not going to get a lot apart from obviously your local cup competition. So I think that'll be a game we can look out for and see the result of that. But Carl Shorten have turned their season around, really, with the new manager and Stephen Bates and a couple of tidy players and good signings. So I can see him making a late surge up the table, a couple of wins on the bounce already, and can't see that stopping with the players they've got. But Wingate, I think they're comfortably up and should be planning for next season, really, unless a dramatic falling form happens for them. But I don't see that happening personally. But don't know what you both think.
Well, I actually thought Carl Charlton would do better this season than they have. I think I predicted them to finish fairly high, maybe just around the playoff spaces. I think I put them.
It was because of the manager keeping basically the whole side. Because it was the reason we all had them up there. I think because they were one of the only sides in this division to keep basically their whole squad. So you think familiar faces, they'll keep it clicking from last season when they were right up there the season before. But Peter Adiene didn't really have the same outcome as the last season coming into this season. But Stephen Bates doing a decent job since joining, so fair play to him.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking if they can keep some of those players, especially that striker from Wealdstone dropping 2 divisions down, they might be doing all right next season. You would expect so, though, wouldn't you, Dad?
Yeah, I think. They probably have pulled themselves clear of the danger zone now. I think if you're looking at the table, you've got to worry about hashtag because I think the bottom 3 are all down. But hashtag Welling have got a game in hand on hashtag. They're only a point behind, and Welling's form's much better than hashtag. They've won 3 out of the last 5. Hashtag 1 out of the last 5. So I think Carl Shorten and Wingate and Finchley have pulled themselves clear of that danger zone now. It's really down to those 2 to sort out the final place.
Agreed. And, well, we've got international break coming up next week. I'm quite looking forward to this international break, with it being the one before the World Cup. I'm slowly getting that buzz. Not really slowly. I've had it for a while because I'm buzzing for the World Cup. So it should be good to see England play. And that's actually 2 good friendlies, I think, Uruguay and Japan. So we'll do probably a shorter episode next week, touching on England, touching on a few other international games potentially. Ireland, Harvey Vale's been called up, and then any non-league games.
World Cup qualification, isn't it? This week, so that'll be massive. Yeah,
Ireland
have to keep an eye on that.
Ireland have got Czechia, so
Northern Ireland
we'll be talking about that.
Northern Ireland have got Italy, haven't they?
Yeah, so definitely keeping an eye on that, and we'll have some discussion about that next week. But thanks for everyone for listening. See you then.
Cheers.
Bye bye. Thank you. Bye bye.